I've got the new iPhone Air, and this thing is incredibly thin. But how thin is it? I'm gonna compare this side by side with 8 objects around my house, so we can take a look at how thin the iPhone Air actually is. Tack it before you rack it. What's up, geeks? I'm Kirk. I just thought this would be a fun way to take a look at exactly how thin the new iPhone Air actually is. And if you hang around to the B side, I'm gonna compare it to this. Okay, I'm not gonna reveal this quite yet, but I will tell you it's a phone, and it was created by one of the people who was instrumental in creating the original iPod. And when it came out, it was amazingly small. Anyways, stick around for that. In the meantime, let's get over to the table, and I wanna show you how thin the phone is coming out of the box for the first time. Here's the iPhone Air, brand new in the box, and rightfully so, they show the profile off on the front of the box, which is pretty cool. It shows you how thin this thing is. Even the box itself is pretty thin compared to other iPhone boxes. For the sake of comparison, let me show you the box next to a standard iPhone 17 box. It is definitely thinner. Not much, but it certainly has a thinner profile side by side with the standard iPhone 17 box. Inside, you've got the phone here, and it does include, it looks like a standard iPhone charging cable, which, as you know, is now USB-C. They also include a little tiny piece of paperwork. This is literally probably all the legal jargon that is required to be included in the box. It is 2 pieces of paper. This is it. And then you've got the phone itself, and it is a sleek looking phone. The moment of zen as I peel off the screen protection. Really nice glass on the front, and it feels lightweight. It feels thin in your hand. The back of it, really cool. Even this camera hump, which I know some people might not like because it kind of kills the thinness of the phone, is just so sleek looking. This color is like a light blue color. Really nice looking phone. Let's see how thin this thing actually is. Apple says it's 5.6 millimeters thick. I've got a calibration tool here to measure exactly if that's correct, so let's check it out and take a look. When I squeeze this in the tool, it gives me 5.6 millimeters. Exactly. One of the problems is the camera bump. It protrudes significantly. When you add that in, you almost double the thickness at 11.1 millimeters. So that is important to keep in mind when thinking about the iPhone Air. First and foremost, I want to compare this to the iPhone 17. This is the base model iPhone 17 in green, and I want to put this side by side. Obviously, the iPhone 17 is thicker. You can see that right here, significantly thicker. It's almost twice as thick, frankly, as the iPhone Air. But again, back to the situation with the camera bump. When you add that camera bump in, total thickness, you're actually about the same in terms of thickness of each of the camera bumps. The iPhone Air, if you see right there, has kind of like a double camera bump. It's got this hump on the back and then the camera protruding out of that. But again, the body of the phone is significantly thinner when you compare it to the standard iPhone 17 model. You can see it side by side right there. Let's talk credit cards or membership cards. How many does it take to equal the thickness of the iPhone Air? I've got 7 cards here, and it is exactly equal to the thickness of the iPhone Air. You can see it side by side right there. And the truth is, in this picture, it almost looks like the card stack is thicker than the iPhone Air. But I'm here to tell you, I measured it with my tool. It is exactly the same thickness as the iPhone Air. This side, it actually kind of looks more similar. Now, the credit cards are kind of confusing because they can be compressed a little bit. So when I compress them, and especially when you put it on the side of the iPhone Air, you'll see it. When you compress them, it comes out to exactly 5.6 millimeters, just like the iPhone Air. Okay, let's talk about playing cards. I've got Uno cards, but any playing cards are going to be about the same thickness. I'm counting out a total of 20 Uno cards to get to the thickness of the iPhone Air. Let me show you it side by side. Here you go, guys, side by side. And this is kind of like the credit cards in the sense that visually it looks thicker. But again, I'm here to tell you the thickness is exactly the same as the iPhone Air. I'll put it to the side of the phone itself, kind of give you that perspective. I've got some cards kind of hanging over there, but when you squeeze the cards, it is exactly the same thickness. In fact, let me show you with my measurement tool how that matches up, because again, the iPhone Air is 5.6 millimeters thick, and this stack of cards, when I take the device here and compress it, is Actually measuring at 5.4, but again, it compresses, so it's kind of in between 5.5 and 5.7. It lands at about 5.6 millimeters. Next up, we've got an Xbox One game storage case. One of my favorite games, Forza Horizon. This is a pretty old version of Forza Horizon 3, doesn't really matter. Just wanted to show you kind of side by side. This would be similar to a DVD case, but clearly the phone is about half the thickness of this Xbox One storage case. So if you have a storage case around, you can pick it up and just get an idea how thin this phone is going to be, because that storage case, again, about twice the thickness. Iconic SD cards. We all have a gazillion of these things laying around, and so I've got a couple of them right here. This was kind of interesting because I couldn't get an exact measurement in terms of number of SD cards, because 2 SD cards, I know it doesn't quite look like it there, but I'm telling you, I measured it. It's actually thinner than the phone. 3 SD cards came out a little bit thicker than the phone. So the truth is, it's about, I think, 2.5 SD cards thick. Let me try to get a better footing here to show this to you side by side. So yeah, you can see 3 SD cards, a little bit thicker than the iPhone Air, and then you take one out, and the 2 SD cards are a touch thinner than the iPhone Air. But I think 2 SD cards is probably closer. I'd say 2.25 SD cards, maybe, if we're being exact, just to give an idea in terms of thickness compared to SD cards. The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, a very thin phone, one of the thinnest phones out there, especially when you open it up. Obviously, when it's closed, it's a little bit thicker, but I want to show this to you because I think this is a good gauge. Obviously, when it's closed, you're talking much thicker with the Galaxy Z Fold 7. The question is, what about when it's open? Well, when it's open, the Z Fold 7 is definitely thinner. Kind of an unfair advantage because it's so big when it's opened up and they can kind of spread things out. It doesn't look that much thinner side by side, but look at this. When I measure it with my measuring tool here, again, 5.6 millimeters is the iPhone Air, and this is 4.3 millimeters thickness. So it is significantly thinner when you compare it to the iPhone Air. Again, not the best comparison, but it's probably one of the thinnest major smartphones out there. So I wanted to show that to you side by side. I do want to show you the camera bump situation, though, is very similar. They've got a 2-tier bump just like the iPhone Air. And you can see that in the side profile. It adds significantly to the thickness of both of these phones. Finally, one of my favorite tiny little phones ever created way back in the day. It is the Palm Pixie. And this is actually mine from what, probably 15, almost 20 years ago. I'm not quite sure. But back in the day, this phone was unbelievably small. And in terms of footprint, it still is. I mean, it's significantly smaller in terms of footprint, but side by side, it just doesn't even compare. The iPhone Air is so much thinner than this thing. So the Palm Pixie does have like a rubber casing on the outside. It was used to hold the battery in. So let me take that off. I'll compare it without the rubber casing. The rubber casing's kind of sort of just falling off on its own already because the thing is so old. But even with that rubber casing off, that protective housing, it still feels thicker. And side by side, you can see it's about double the thickness of the iPhone Air. Again, this phone was insanely small at the time for the amount of power it had in it. And these days, obviously, it doesn't hold up in terms of thickness, but side by side with the iPhone Air, it is significantly thicker. The iPhone Air, pretty impressively thin, if I might say so myself. What do you guys think? Does the iPhone Air impress or does the iPhone Air miss? I'd love to see your comments. Throw a comment below. I read every single one and I'll comment back on every one as well. And I hope you'll do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow here on YouTube, but I've also got a lot more cool tech videos coming your way here on Tech It Before You Wreck It. I'm Kirk.